Welcome to another edition of Just Unsecure Cybersecurity, where we talk about everything information and cybersecurity. And this time around, we're going through a special series. I know it's the month of March, and where we're going to be focusing mostly on African women in cybersecurity, focusing on success stories and opportunities. But before I go ahead, I have to introduce myself. I'm Babs, and the co-host is
Oh, nice to
oh,
meet you guys again.
okay. Like as usual, like I said, we're going to be focusing mostly on African women in cybersecurity, and we have a special guest for you. I will let her introduce herself, but let me just give you a peek of who she is. She's a seasoned information security practitioner with an extensive expertise in information security, cybersecurity, GRC, and for those of you who don't know what GRC is governance, risk, and compliance. She's a thought leader in the field, and she also helps organization in cyber resilience. And
Hmm.
yep, she's not from West Africa. She's from South Africa. Not from South Africa, the region, Southern Africa.
Yeah.
I'll let you introduce her. I'll let you bring
No,
her on.
I can't do justice to it. She has to just do it herself. So I just bring her in. Yeah.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Matambila Chuunga. How are you doing?
Thank I am very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a pleasure, such an honor.
No, no, we did the honor is from us. Like you did us the honor out of the busy time of the year. We know that very well. For any season CISO to carve out time to come and talk to us at this time of the year, no, it is incredible, and we're happy to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So before you came in, Babs was making an attempt to introduce you, and he passed it to me, and I told him like, no way, I can't do that. So I'll give that to you. Please introduce yourself. Do us the honor and the audience. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, thank you. So, my name is, as you correctly pronounced, but thank you very much, is Matambila Chuunga. I am Zambian. Zambia is in the southern region of Africa. Um, I've been in the industry for about 15 plus years. I hope that doesn't give away my age. Uh, So just a little background to how I got here. I did my high schooling in Zambia, and then I went to Australia where I did my cybersecurity training for the education, and then decided to move back to Zambia. And fortunately, my career has been in banks, so it's been quite a journey. I've worked for at least one indigenous Zambian bank and about two international banks, and this is where I am. So, information security is literally it's part of me. I mean, you could wake me up at 2 a.m. and gun to my head, I'll still be
I
able to
I like
to
the
guide the
passion. Yeah.
questions. Yeah, so it's I think that's pretty much about me, really. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Happy that you are shining the spotlight not only on cybersecurity in Africa, but on women. That is something that is missing. And again, thank you so much for this.
Like O said, the pleasure is all ours, and we couldn't have wished for a better person to present cybersecurity from a woman's perspective than yourself. And I will hit the ground running because most of the viewers, especially young girls and women looking into cybersecurity, are looking at you right now and saying, "What made you choose a career path in cybersecurity? What's what pushed that to you? It's not common. It's not common for any African woman or girl to say, okay, that is the path I want to take. What made you take that step?
Yeah, yeah. So my story is very interesting. Unlike most people, I didn't know what I really wanted to be when I was in high school. So initially, before I graduated high school, I thought I would be a lawyer. I was very sure that I wanted to study, like 100% sure I'm going to study law. And, at the time, we did have computer classes, but they were very, very, very basic. So you didn't really get deep down into computers. But then if I can take you a few years back, around the time between, I think I was 8 and maybe 11 years old, my father's an engineer by profession, but he had this interest in computers. And so that's where I started getting the interest from. And, even though he was an engineer, he would actually program games for my sister and I.
Whoa.
And so I remember, it was quite interesting.
That's cool.
And I remember the first computer I can think of was, I think it was a Commodore 64. Again, hope I'm not giving away my age, but that's how far back my memory goes. So, and then I also remember a time when it was exciting for me to sit in front of this old computer uploading an operating system. If you remember, you had like a box of floppy disks just to, install an OS. But for me, that was exciting. I would sit there waiting for that little beep and then switch and switch and switch. So I had that interest. But then in high school, like I said, we did have computer class, but it was just very, very basic, extremely basic. And I thrived in literature and history. Hence, I'm like, probably law. And so I finished high school and I have doubts. I'm like, I'm not too sure. I wanted to do law, but I'm not too sure. And so I had planned on taking at least a year off. In the West, they call it a gap year.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, no, you can't spend a whole year doing nothing.
You're an African, remember? African parent things like, what?
Yes.
We're not taking you.
Imagine, and I'm also, yes, and I'm the firstborn daughter. So you can imagine.
Yeah, laying the foundation for the rest.
Yes, deputy parent. So we came across, my mom and I, an accountancy college in Lusaka. At this point, we were living in Malawi. My dad was working for a company in Malawi. We'd moved to Malawi, and so I came back to Zambia and went to this college, and I hated it with every fiber in my body because I am terrible at maths. I won't even lie. I'm not even ashamed. I hate maths. Anything with maths to me just feels very repetitive, redundant. And so I really did not like it. And therefore, I did not apply myself. But that kind of worked because my parents were like, hey, what's going on here? Like, I don't like it.
Especially with an engineer as a father. Like.
Right? The pressure.
Exactly.
So, and my mom was a banker. So, it's a little tricky. So, but that kind of worked in my favor because then they realized, okay, look, apart from wasting money, you're not applying yourself. What is happening? So we went back to the drawing board where I said, I need to figure out what do I like doing? What do I enjoy doing? And it took me back to the days of the floppy disks. Like, hey, I like computers. They're fascinating. I would sit with my dad just watching him do all these things on the computer. And so that's how my journey took me to Australia because the course I wanted to do was not available in Zambia at the time. And so I got to Australia, enrolled in a course for software development. And to my horror, I found engineering maths. I don't know why. And I had to do engineering maths 1 and 2. I mean, I just, where you just pass, like you just get over that.
Let my people go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it was horrible. And then I also found that I had to do programming, which is another thing I despise. That was my Achilles heel. I was just like, I just know what is happening. And so I got through my diploma stage, just barely passed the programming. And I remember at the time, now looking to get into university, what am I going to study? And so I did a bit of research. And at the time, I remember my guidance counselor had said, mobile applications. So this is about 2004. 2004. He had said to me, mobile applications is going to be the next big thing. You want to maybe go down that road. And then I looked at the course contents and there was programming. I said, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not going. I said, no, I can't do this. And so again, went through research and then I found a degree, IT degree, and the major was computer security. I was like, oh, what is that? Did more research. I was like,
2004.
oh, this is 2004. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is very interesting. It did have an element of programming, but it was just very, very minor, very, very minor. And, it was an interesting class because imagine, so I graduated in 2008. And one of my classes then, or rather courses, was called Information Warfare, which is what we're dealing with now with misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah, agree.
2004.
2004. So nothing's really new anymore. Like, this has been envisaged a long time ago. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I found it interesting. There were classes with forensics as well. We had projects, and it's one of those things where because I was doing what I really wanted to do, I thrived. I really did thrive. And, graduation was so exciting. But the whole time I was there, I did not plan on living there for the rest of my life. I had this crazy idea. I'm like, you know what? I have obtained these skills in Australia. Why not take them back home? And so, like I'll probably live here for a couple of years, but definitely I have to go back home and share what I've learned. And so I had all these dreams. When I go home, I'll be a manager and, all these exciting things. So my introduction into the industry, I worked for 2 internet service providers, big ones in Australia. And I started right at the bottom, your call center agents, which was a very interesting experience. It was very stressful, but you learn a lot, especially with handling conflict with customers and patients, which is something that I have carried with me even today. But also just following your organization's policies. They had policies, for example, where if you have an abusive customer who's calling you, you can't hang up. You give them 3 chances. And the third time, then you hang up. Customer calls, don't hang up before they do. So, all these things do speak into what I'm doing now in terms of soft skills. So it was a good experience. So I moved back to Zambia, 2009. And, believe it or not, my bubble burst very quickly because what I had dreamed, I'd get a job like that didn't happen.
Yep.
No. That didn't happen. I went through numerous interviews, and a couple of interviews were quite stressful because on the panel, I remember two places I went to where the fact that I went to school abroad was used against me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's different. That's the first time you heard this. Okay.
Yeah. It was used against, and you can imagine I'm being interviewed. And when you're being interviewed, you are vulnerable, and you really wanted these jobs, and then I was like, oh wow, okay. So, kind of long story short, I eventually got into the banking sector. There was a bank called, got into the IT department. And I remember my interview was quite weird. So, I have come with experience from Australia, right?
Yeah.
And I get into the bank. The department had about 19, 20 men. I was the only woman. The only one. So, so my job interview kind of went like this. Do you know how to type? Okay. Do you know the difference between CD-ROM and CD-RAM? Okay, you have the job. And so I was taken aback. Like, oh, okay.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So I thought, oh, okay, this is strange, but okay, I guess. And so, I stayed there for a very long time, and I found that my role, I was relegated to was back to being like an admin. So all I was doing was answering calls from the department, taking notes in meetings. But, I said to myself, okay, let me do this up until confirmation. When after I'm confirmed, then I'm going to start applying what I have learned from Australia. So right now, just play it cool, play it cool, don't argue, do what's asked. So I tried after confirmation now is bringing in what I had learned from Australia. Like I mentioned, I tried to bring up the idea of an online ticketing help desk system, but I was met with, we've been using manual systems before you were born, so why change? So I had that type of resistance. And a lot of times it was demotivating, but I was very determined to try and make a difference. Because again, I've had this exposure from the West. And, it didn't feel right to just let that go, especially where, we're still doing things that were in the 90s. And I've just come from a country that is living in, at the time, I would say 2030. So eventually, slowly, I won the powers that be over. And, okay, thank you. A little idea sounds, productive. And so that's how I started now to make way. But also I realized that my resilience was paying off. Had I just said, you know what, okay, I've really tried, but, there's no changing minds. I definitely would have been stuck. But I always try, if he said no, say today, I'll be like, okay, maybe 6 months or 3 months, I'll come back and I'll use an example, maybe a company that I would look up and say, this is how they're doing it. The airline is using ticketing systems and it's more effective and all these things. So I managed to get that done. And then the company then merged with another company to form a bigger company. And that's really where I want to say the acceleration began. So everything I had been doing finally was noticed. But also what worked in my favor was the fact that I was the only female. And so I remember an executive had, said to me, you stick out like a sore thumb for obvious reasons. And I'd like to know what you do here. And I used that opportunity to sell and market myself without saying, look, I don't belong here. I need to be here because this is what I have sort of done, continue to do, and all these things. And so luckily that, they took notice. I remember we had aptitude tests, and I remember being told I think I was one of two who had scored the highest. I remember that very well. And then identified me and the other person for leadership roles, which was exciting. I was like, oh man, we're going somewhere. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. And so then that didn't quite go according to plan. There were some changes with the organization, but they did recognize my skill, my hard work. And so I was moved from being a help desk officer, IT officer, to now team lead position for security and risk management. And I was like, okay, it was worth the wait. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. And when I got that role, I think within a month or two, we had a new head of IT, fairly young at the time, which I thought was interesting because all the head of ITs I'd known of were senior, politely. But this is somebody who was in my age group. And I thought, wow, at this age, this is possible? I thought this was insane. But, he was very instrumental in also recognizing my passion and my skill.
Fantastic.
And he got me involved. Yes, he got me involved very early on with activities like preparing for strategy. Now, I wasn't part of the sessions. He was as head of IT, but he brought me on board and my other colleagues in the same role. So without honing that experience, okay, the strategy, okay, what's it about? What goes into a session? And we worked very, very well, but also he gave me the exposure, honestly, that propelled me to, where I am today. And so an opportunity arose in another bank. And at first, I was very hesitant because I somewhat became comfortable where I was. And with jobs, it's just like going to a new school. You're going to be
Yep.
the new
Yeah.
kid.
Yep.
Starting afresh,
Adjusting,
learning the ropes.
starting afresh. Yeah, and I thought, do I really want to do that? But then I thought, no, but, I've had this goal of where I want to be. And you can only move as, being uncomfortable is part of the process. It really is. I am a testimony. It is part of the process. I remember back in the day, I thought being in IT was just being in a corner somewhere with the headphones on, your hoodie, don't talk to people, that type of thing. But obviously, because I wanted to move up in management, I had to leave that behind. It meant talking more. I am a bit of an introvert. And so that also frightened me. I have to speak a bit more and, I don't know.
How dare.
Yeah. So, I took a chance. I prayed, spoke to my family. And I said, okay, let me, what's the worst that could happen? For sure, I know I'm not going to fail. But also the role at the organization was a new role, country head of information security, completely new.
New.
And it was brand new. And so I said, okay, this is good because then that can be my legacy. But also the fact that I'm a woman, hopefully I perform, that then opens the door for another woman to come after me. And that's what drove me every day. I went in there 100%, 200%, and never complained about work, even though it was overwhelming because I was the only person in my department. But, for me, I was just grateful for that opportunity. And no, it's a case of complaining would be akin to being ungrateful, honestly. But also, at the time, I did not know any other women in Zambia who were at that level. And so, I have male colleagues who are at that level and beyond who I look to for guidance as well. And all those things. So, stayed there for a couple of years, and then I was headhunted for my current role, where I am the regional chief information security officer. So, again, another case of it's a brand new role, completely new. Another opportunity to build something, but also I think I'm just very grateful for the organization itself because when it came to selecting the person, they don't look at gender. It's who is best fitted for this role, which I think is very, very important. And, this year marks 2 years with the organization. It's been very interesting. My role does cover East and Southern Africa. So I have CISOs in the region who do report to me. I also sit on executive management, which is also different from my previous role. And I also report to the board of directors. So it's been quite a journey. It's been quite, I wish I could write a book, but I don't have the skill.
I'm sure you will. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
You're still in the journey, but I'm sure you will.
Yeah, because that's a lot
Yeah,
of experience. I really agree with you that that's a lot of
Yeah.
experience. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So it's really been great. Basically from the time I started in Australia as a call center consultant, being to all the jobs in Zambia, every single job has been a building block. Every experience, honestly, has also been a building block where I am. And again, because it was a new role, I did not look at it as failure. I'm like, no, there's no failure here. I'm building something, and the organization has given me a platform, and together we'll create something that is it'll be for the history books. And like I said again, they don't look at gender. It's who is best for the role. Point blank. Period. And yeah, that's where I am today, career-wise.
Wow. That's a lot. I wouldn't even mince word with what I'm about to say to jump to the next question. It is a relief to say that the journey paid off from the start to this point, and throwing yourself into those challenges. And that leads me to the next question that someone might be asking. Yeah, Matambila, you started 2004. Maybe the ship has sailed now. Is there any opportunity for women? For someone like me that just come into the industry, are there still opportunity? Or man, I have to go back to 2004 and start the way you started. So
Yeah,
that'll be that's my next question. Yeah, actually.
yeah. No, absolutely. I think one of the things that was missing, speaking from my experience, like I said, I didn't know of any other women who had held positions at senior levels in IT or cybersecurity. I didn't even think to look around the continent. And times have changed. Honestly, times have changed. Just like you guys at Just Secure are doing, Unsecure are doing right now, is at least now we have platforms. We can actually see that it's possible. We have amazing women on the continent who are doing great things. I think there's Constance in Nigeria, for example, who's doing amazing things. But also, if you look at cases of mentorship, during my time coming up, mentorship didn't exist. So even, I talked about, I had male friends who were in the same line of work. But having a mentor who is a woman is very different from a mentor who is a man, honestly. With a young lady, I can share more experiences. I can go into something that can be relatable. Excuse me. Again, back to where we are today, there are so many opportunities available, and it does make me happy to see organizations that will not look at gender first. It's who is skilled. We need the best fit and the best person. But also, I think what you also find that I have found in as I'm growing is even in my organization, we do have mentorship in the organization for women. So, you might look at me as a thought leader, but guess what? I'm still a student at the end of the day. That's how I see myself. And I can still learn from another female who maybe is at the board level. There's so much to share from there. My journey might not be the journey for the next other ladies who are coming. For them, it might be straight university, get into that job. Now we have all these graduate trainee programs, right?
Yes.
That will then prepare young people for those roles. And so there's so much opportunity. But I think for a lot of us who are, giving this exposure, yourselves included, I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that the young ladies or young men know, listen, it's possible. It's very possible. You just have to be extremely intentional. Somebody has walked that path, and we can still learn. I'm from an era of floppy disks. Doesn't mean I don't know how to use thumb drives. I've adapted. I've adapted. So opportunities are there. Look at the internet now compared to back then. You can apply for mentorship, internships, these graduate programs online. So I think it's just a matter, again, of just being intentional. But also, where we have the tools, let's use them. Go online, go to LinkedIn. You can actually find mentors there, reach out to people there. Look at organizations. If you go to websites now for companies, you can actually see the leadership there. And you will see that a lot of women are really in tech roles now. So it is possible.
Perfect. I think before I even ask my own follow-up question, congratulations if it's a new role that you just got, but congratulations. I think the story alone, I'm waiting for the book. Let me just let you know that I'm waiting to read the book. Okay?
Okay. All right. Action point.
So, you've talked about the different careers, and we're now in the 2025, and some girls are out there like, okay, what career, or should I say, what should I do to be able to get to a position like you? Because some people see I'll give an example, pen testing or ethical hacking. We have very few ladies in there. Do you understand? Even from an African perspective, it's very low. Is that a barrier? Is should people, for girls, is there a path, an easier path? Because for you, you didn't go through the easier path. You went through, I don't know the words to use, but the due diligence of ensuring all the way from support all the way. Yeah, there's a path. I think that's what we need to also let the girls and everybody. This doesn't just affect girls. It's everyone trying to come into cybersecurity. That it's not a quick win. It's
Yeah.
it's a journey. But for girls, focusing on the girls and women in particular, if you wanted to advise them on a career path, what would you say to them?
Honestly, I would say start with looking deep inside. What do you enjoy doing? I think that's very important. A lot of times in our African homes, your career path is dictated to you.
Yep.
Family of engineers, you're going to be an engineer. But then, again, using myself as an example, went to do an accounting course, hated it with the passion. I hated it because it wasn't something I enjoyed doing at all. And so the first thing is, really look inside, due diligence on yourself. What do you enjoy building? I like that you talked about the issue with pen testers. So I look at myself, when I look at cybersecurity, I'm like, you either like to build or break. And so in my books, if you are a pen tester, then you enjoy breaking things. If you're a little more into GRC like me, you like building things. So again, if you enjoy things like, in my case, like I said, maths was my weakness. And it's something, even today, I don't like seeing 5 plus 10. It just makes me sick. I don't like maths. I don't like it. And so I was able to be intentional as well. Anything with maths as a core is not for me. I would not do well at all. And so let's start there. Realize, understand, what do you like doing? So you like breaking things. I would definitely look into pen testing. You're probably on the red team. Probably on the red team. But also when the young people identify what they want to do, especially in places where there's no representation, right? So it wasn't too long ago, years ago, you didn't hear of women being engineers, for example. It was always unheard of. And so how does the girl in the rural area aspire or even dare to dream to be an engineer if she's never seen a woman who's an engineer? And so as professionals, again, we have a duty, where we can, in terms of just the outreach and awareness that, look, it's possible. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs, may he rest in peace, was "Stay hungry, stay foolish," which to me means, listen, no matter what you do, your dreams are not foolish. People might see them as foolish. That's fine, but that's what you need. You know what you're passionate about, and again, once you harness that passion, when you start working, it's a case of every day you are excited. You know how people don't like Mondays? I love Mondays. It's a new week for a challenge. But that's because I enjoy what I do. There's not a moment where I'm rolling my eyes like, I'm going to work. I genuinely enjoy what I do. Even with the challenges, it's a learning point. Difficult times, it's still a learning point because of that passion that I have. So there's nothing impossible. Whether you want to look up, I'm sure you can look up AI in compliance and legal, you will probably find something in there. But also, I think lastly, what I want to say is it's also important that, everybody has their own story. You really have your own story. So what I believe is impossible could actually be motivating somebody else who's been quiet in the background, hoping and wondering, I'm not too sure if I can take this path. But once they see that representation, then I believe the impossible really is nothing. So passion. That would then direct and lead you.
Thank you for that. You made a particular statement like, yeah, you will find something, and that relates to that takes me back to your story, to your journey. You looked at everywhere, and back then nobody was talking about computer security in 2004, right? It doesn't exist. And then you had to go into that. So sometimes even anybody starting right now can look at what is going to be next in
Yes.
cybersecurity. Who knows? So you might find a course that way. So pivot, as Matambila have mentioned, she pivoted several times. She found herself, and she has reiterated that again, that you can also find yourself, and that is great. So I'll ask the next question. That takes me to the next question. Like in the next 5 or 10 years, maybe if you're looking into your, let's say your, what they said, that is this a magic globe or a
Yeah.
crystal ball?
Yeah,
Yeah,
crystal ball. Yeah.
yeah. If you're looking into your crystal ball, say, in the next 5 or 10 years, where do you see the future of cybersecurity for women?
Hmm. That's a good question. I recently saw a report, I think it was Business Insider Nigeria, that said globally in Africa, um, women represent about 25% cybersecurity professionals. And then
Oh,
on the continent, we stand at, I think it's 9%. 9%. That's insane. So in the next 5, 10 years, hopefully we come back and have this conversation again. I definitely see that number growing because I think companies now are realizing the importance of diversity.
hmm,
And more importantly, it's not diversity just to tick a box. No, 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 no. It's look at the skills. Again, who is the best fit for the role? But also just in terms of offering, divergent views, etc. You definitely need a diverse workforce. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I see that number going up. I see more women, honestly, taking charge as well. One of the things that I've come to realize from exposure, like I said, I do manage CISOs in the East African region, but also from networking with my colleagues in Zambia, is sometimes there's this tendency of women to shy away from leadership roles.
hmm,
Mm.
And so it's a case of, you know what, I'm happy being the tech. It's not for me. Because again, they don't see representation, but also there's something missing in terms of support and encouragement, which can then, I think, go back to my earlier point about, again, cultural norms. I've met 1 or 2 young ladies in Zambia who have said to me, I really wanted to do a career in hardware support, but my family said that won't bring us money. That doesn't make sense.
hmm.
So pivot this other way. you
Yeah.
know, it's. I mean, using myself as an example again, I'm the only person in my family and extended who's in cybersecurity, but that didn't stop me. And I thank God that I have a very supportive family. I'm
Yeah.
sure that sometimes they thought this girl crazy, but this is what you want to do. Okay, we'll support you, which was fantastic. And for me, it's exciting. I'm seeing more and more, especially young girls, really exploring the different avenues in cybersecurity.
Hmm.
AI is becoming a thing now. I've met a couple
Mm-hmm.
of young ladies who are incorporating that into some of their projects. They're looking at doing courses on the side to complement what they're doing. And so I'm very sure that in at least the next 5 years, that 9% is going to shoot up, hopefully to a very good, sustainable number, but something that we can collectively be very proud of to say,
Yep.
look at where we were 15 years ago. And now we have different women, doing different amazing things.
Perfect. I
Thank you
think
for that.
in another 5, 10 years, if we have that, more women there in cybersecurity, that would be wonderful. But I'll play the devil's advocate because I'll ask a question from a male chauvinistic perspective.
Let's go.
Why? Why? Why should we why should we have more women? What's the benefit of having more women in cybersecurity? How does it help the industry as a whole?
Very good question. And
Don't hate
I'm
me for
happy
these
you brought
women.
it
I'm
up.
on your side.
I'm going to zoom into her.
No, it's a very good question. Let me give you an example. I don't know how many people know that the person behind the GPS is a woman.
Yeah, I read that.
Is a woman, right? And so, using that as an example, a product came up called this GPS thing, and okay, we know what it's going to be used for. But then think about it. If the project around it only involved, let's say, a man, I don't think the additional features would have been included.
Because we don't ask for
Honestly
directions.
There you go.
Talk for yourself.
So, bring it back to cybersecurity. For me, it's the same thing. It's important that you bring women on board. Again, not just to take a box, but we do offer, a different angle, a different take. Again, speaking for myself, I've had situations where, I report to somebody higher, and maybe they'll go to a meeting, and then they'll come back to me and say, "Hey, what do you think?" And then I look at it from a different vantage point, right? A different vantage point. That then opens, okay, maybe let's look at it this way, or that's a good point. Let's take it in this direction, right? So there is that aspect to it that we need each other. Let's be honest here. We need each other. We're able to offer that vantage point. But then also, if you're looking at creating, say, cybersecurity solutions, it would be helpful if you also have women on board. I mean, look at it this way as well. If we're a company that is making products for differently abled people, it would make sense to have somebody representing differently abled people, because we could miss something. We could miss one or two things there. So that's my take. We are important. We should work together. But like I said, it's not a matter of just ticking a box, because if we start doing diversity hires in that sense, we are taking women back 10,000 years, honestly, because then it means that we're not hiring the skilled women when we do have skilled women for these roles. I hope that answers your question, Babz.
Absolutely. I won't say anything otherwise. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We really need that diversity. But I will ask another question. Moving away from this, is the fact that not even entry level ladies who are in cybersecurity or in technology, but let's say they're already into cybersecurity and they want to, pivot and move to leadership role. Where should they start? Certifications? Should they go for some level of study? I don't know. What will it be that it will automatically qualify them or put them in that path to compete? As you said, you wrote some exam, you have some interviews that I know both women and men are there, but you qualified and you were chosen. Right? Yeah, that means something has prepared you for it, or you've prepared yourself for it. So what would you say to those level of women who just tanked in a career and they wanted to go up the scale like you?
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the certifications I would recommend would be the ISO 27001 lead implementer for information security management. I think that's one of the best introductions, first of all, to understanding how an InfoSec management system works. It gives you a well-rounded view of what's required. But then again, like I mentioned, there are different avenues. Depends on what you want to do. One of the things I'm actually doing right now is a data protection certification. I know Nigeria, you have your data protection regulation. Zambia also has one. It's still in its infancy stage, but we're getting there. And, we can't shy away from data protection. We cannot. We can't.
Yeah.
And so, just to, again, supplement or complement what I've done, even with my experience, I looked at that course and I'm like, this is very important because just like the ISO certification, this is the one that can take you literally around the world because you learn about GDPR. And we all know that all the data protection laws come from GDPR. So, back to my point, again, depending on where you want to go, you might want to look at different certifications, whether it's ethical hacking, risk management, etc. But one thing that I think is overlooked greatly is soft skills. That is greatly overlooked. Coming from a technical background, I understand, when you speak in technical terms to people as a tech person, it's a way of telling them to leave you alone. You don't want people around you. But as you start to move up, you have to have conversations with the business. Can you speak their language? And you speaking their language means put back that tech speak to them in a way that they understand. You need to speak to your board of directors. You can't go in there highly technical. You must speak a language that they understand, because once they understand you, then you get the support that you need. You also get to talk to regulators who at times are not on par with your technical skills. And then look at the organization as well. Cybersecurity, if you're doing awareness, for example, with the organization, everybody must understand what you are saying. I know the soft skills also translate into your presentation skills, for example, also extremely overlooked. Your written communication skills, also overlooked. So that's something that, I think some organizations will have some sort of like mentorship class around communication, just to prepare people for those roles. But that's something I would say, start looking into that, extremely well, because even when I conduct interviews, I'll look at someone's CV. It's highly technical, I've got no doubt. But when I'm speaking to you, we have a problem. We have a problem because, what I want is for you to go with confidence when you're speaking to the board. If you're being challenged by your executive committee, you need to be confident with what you're saying. Cybersecurity organizations is a fairly new role. You find that even the CISO role is fairly new. And so you need, they need the buy-in, you need the support. And so if they don't understand you, they don't, exactly. So, you have a budget of $1,000 or $100,000 for cybersecurity, but you can't justify or you can't show us evidence that in the last 1 year you were able to, avoid these threats. What do you do? So it's things like that where, again, it's a skill that is grossly underlooked or overlooked rather. And I would say definitely as you prepare to move up, that becomes key, very key. And I like that you brought up the budget issue because that's normally a pain point. How do I justify this budget of $500,000? But we were not hit with ransomware last year. What do I do?
It's just like one of the challenge that I have when I was in the one of my former employer was justifying why they should build a DR when they've never had any downtime. How do you tell a telco to be $1 million DR when
Yeah, exactly. So it's a case of, again, skill. Speak their language. Like at my level, it's all about return on investment, for example. So I need to make sure that I'm speaking into that, and not just please give me this amount of money, because then they'll say, well, no, that's ridiculous. It's a lot of money. Soft skills matter. We put it that way.
And I think that's what, based on the shows and based on the people we've been talking to, I think that's what is resonating among most CISOs is you need to have that soft skills, because most of the people you are going to interact with are not technical, and they hold the say in quote budget. So it's like, oh, I need a firewall. Okay, yeah. But when you say a firewall costs this amount of money, they'll be like, no. Well, I understand you need a firewall, but you didn't tell me the amount of money for the firewall. It's a totally different ball game because
And we have
where
been
are
doing
you?
without firewall for years. Why should we buy?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Because in my previous employer, a colleague of mine said, "Oh, the guy said it's okay." I said, "Did you tell him how much it will cost?" He said, "No." I said, "Tell him how much it will cost. Then he's going to ask you to explain further." And that's what happened. If you tell them, "Oh yeah, we need this," they'll say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it's okay, it's okay." When they see the amount, they're like, no, 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 no. You need to explain." That is where you need to justify what you need to do within cybersecurity or information security as a whole. But
Yes.
I think I want to actually go to another topic which interests me because I looked at your profile and I saw you are actually doing something at your own personal level called the HoneyPot chat.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
want to give us like what it's all about and why you decided to do that podcast?
Okay. So I have a Zambian friend by the name of Brenda. She is in cybersecurity. And so if you remember at the start of COVID, Europe had lockdowns.
Hmm.
And she was in Spain at the time. I mean, she couldn't even go outside. Like, they would not let them go outside. And so we had conversations about that, but then also just about cybersecurity. And, funny enough, just like I mentioned, this case of being too technical, people not understanding. And so we saw that there was a need in Zambia for a cybersecurity awareness podcast. And we said, okay, we'll tackle subjects that maybe people have become aware of, but they don't really understand. So let's really break it down into examples and just language that people will actually get. And so that was the birth of HoneyPot Chats. We're on a hiatus at the moment. We're actually re-strategizing for this year, so please watch out. But I should mention it was such an honor to be recognized by MIT Horizon for a little podcast. So we
Nice.
did have a web session with them. Yeah, I had a web session with them just talking about our careers and some of the challenges similar to what we're doing now. And so it was really good. But it's something again, like I said, was missing here. And we've been getting good feedback. People want us back on the air, and we said, okay, 2025, we're coming in hot. We're coming back.
Fantastic.
Brenda, we are coming for you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My for me, I don't know if Babs, if you have additional question, but one burning question that probably most of the viewers will be asking: where can we reach Mambila? Where?
I thought you had a network issue just now.
No. Because if I'm listening to Mambila all the while, I was like, guys, just get to it. How can I get hold of Mambila right now? It's really rare getting people like you. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, no, I can be reached on LinkedIn. Just look for Matambila Chuunga. Let's connect from there. I'm not really active on Facebook, but I think LinkedIn is the best way to get me. Most definitely. So again, look for Matambila Chuunga on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect. Also, I hope young people who, also have stories can reach out to me, and let's connect.
Fantastic. That is this. That CISO at the bottom has another C in front. Is Chief Information Security Officer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matambila, for joining this. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Whoa. And that's a very, that session, I didn't want it to stop, honestly.
At all. I was enjoying the conversation.
I think any girl, any woman that watches this session will see that in cybersecurity, it's a step by step. It's continuous learning, continuous strategizing. Matambila showed that you need to strategize. You need to be aware of your environment. You need to put both soft skills, semi technical skills in place. You need to, and the fact that empathy and women are needed in not just cybersecurity, in all walks and parts of life to put their input, their footprint, their stamp into anything they do is appreciating should be appreciated by everyone, especially men that work in male dominated
Mbala.
organization or environment. I think Matambila did justice to this topic, and I'm glad we brought her for this session, or she accepted to come for this session. I don't know. Do you want to say anything to that?
Just speaking directly to someone who's probably in the back of the world where even technology is not even a reality and you have a dream. You've heard from Matambila, the chief information security officer, that you can actually move beyond all the barrier and then continue to try it. We need women in the community. We need women in the society. In cybersecurity, we need you. So if you hung your boots before, this is the time, and you're in the middle layer where you seems your career has tanked, and now you can hear Madam Matambila saying, "Yes, you can still pick up your shoe and rise up to the table." So we're really looking forward to most people being inspired. I was inspired by everything she's talked about.
Same year, like I said, I didn't want it to stop. And for everybody watching this, there's still more women coming. March is the month for women, dedicated to only women. So all sessions is only going to be women. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, to follow us, and get notified when we bring more women onto this channel. And from me, thank you all for listening, and see you next time.
See you next time.